Hello, this is Ekene Banye. I sent out information to my followers to read books, and many have responded asking me to recommend the best books I've ever read. Well, that's going to be difficult for me because I've read a lot of books and it's difficult to rank them. But I will do this. I've decided to recommend some of the books I've read in the last 18 months, only 18 months. So I'll recommend about 10 of the books I've read in the 18 months. Well, I will share this with you. I'm still reading this because I read multiple books at the same time. Okay, so I'm still reading this. This is for my good friend. He was on my podcast. He's a Sierra Leonean. His name is Modupe Taylor Pears. How I Made It: Striking Sustainable Success in Sierra Leone. This by J.P. Martin. Durant, African Empires. All right. The African Origin of Civilization. What Britain did to Nigeria. Now, coming back to some of the best books I've read in the last 18 months. Let's start. Now, I've read books in science, economics, history, social issues. Okay, so let me start with science. I reread this book by one of my main mentors in science, Carl Sagan. This man is very instrumental to me liking science. When I was young, I watched Cosmos, okay, the series. So I watched Cosmos, brought out my curiosity as a teenager. I've always read a lot of science books as a little boy. So when I watched him on Cosmos, maybe it solidified my interest in science. This is from Carl Sagan, The Demon Haunted World. This is a book I highly recommend to everyone, every young African, because in this era, there's a lot of myths and disinformation. This will teach you how to identify them and ask questions to know if this is true or not. So this is it. The Demon Haunted World. Now, this one is a good book. Well, it may not interest everyone, but if you are really interested in understanding how we see the world, this book, The Case Against Reality, How Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes, by Donald D. Hoffman. It's in it is a theory that what we see in life is not actually what is. That evolution just created this world to make things easier for us. That what we see is not actually what it is. You read it, it's very, very interesting. If you like science, you will love it. Let's go to history. Now, if you have been following me for a while, you know that I recommend that young Africans should read and study European history. And there's a reason. Now, I made a video about that. You can check it out. Why young Africans should read and study European history. And it's important. Europe has basically dominated the world in the last 500 years, and there's a reason for it. So I recommend that people should read those things. Now, I own a lot of European history books. My father, when I was young, was an European history teacher. So I have always read European history. For me, as an adult, I found this Will Durant. Now, I love his books because his books are basically stories. And he has a way of writing that educates, informs you, and makes you laugh. So I love Will Durant. This series of the story of civilization. There are 11 books. Well, this is a ninth book. Now, this one is called The Age of Voltaire. Now, I love this. It's talking about the 18th century, the age of the Enlightenment. And in this book, it talked about many of the people who contributed to the Enlightenment in the 18th century. It's a very, very good book. Now, Thomas Paine, The Right of Man, Common Sense, and Other Political Writing. Now, Thomas Paine is an Englishman, and I think he was before he was an Englishman who contributed to the American Revolution. Okay, and he wrote a lot of things about it. He also contributed to the French Revolution. So he was a man who was involved in many revolutions in the 18th and in the 19th century. So it's a guy you need to read. Okay, in this book, it talks about things that are very interesting and important for the modern day. Okay, he wrote the things he wrote contributed to the way politics and your rights. Now, this is history and economics. This is a book written by Thomas Sowell. Now, this is a man I didn't want to read because I listened to some of his videos on YouTube, and somehow I got annoyed about him. But somehow I finally decided to read a book of his, and after I read a book, today I own 15 books of his, and I got all these books within a year. So now I own 15 books of his because I found something about him, Thomas Sowell. Now, this book is called Conquest Culture, and I really recommend this book to every young African. Conquest and Cultures will enlighten you about how the world has always been. And you will see that this era is less of conquest, but the reason why it's less conquest, you understand when you read this book. And it's basically a fact-based book. It talks about concrete things that you can check out. I recommend this. This young man, I call him young man, he's still young, he's in his 50s. Jordan Peterson is a man who in the last 5-6 years has risen to be very popular to many people in the West. And it's a little bit controversial, but he's a man worth reading. He's worth listening to, and is worth reading. His books, you may not agree with many of the things he say, and that's good. You don't need to agree to everything the people you read from say, but his ideas are solid. His ideas are solid. At least it will give you a foundation to start thinking differently. His book, 12 Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos. It's a very, very good book. Now, again, let's go a little bit back to history. This is a book by a young man, Bregman. The title of the book is Humankind, a hopeful story. It's a good book, and like I said, when I read it, it gave me hope about humankind. I will ask everybody to read it because I see us going back to our tribal nature. You say, I'm African, that means Europeans are rubbish. I'm African, that means Asians are rubbish. I am not like that. I believe in humanity. It doesn't matter where we come from. And this book, Conquests and Cultures, will also show you that we are humanity. So this book is one I recommend very highly, okay, to really understand the way we are, that we are not very different. And then this book, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. This is a fantastic book. So combined, these two books are fantastic to show you the history of humankind and the evolution that brought us where we are. These books are fantastic. At this one, they would actually enlighten you about humankind, evolution, everything that has been going on within the humankind family. So these three books are fantastic. Now, let's go this way. Fantasyland, How America Went Haywire, a 500-year history by Kurt Andersen. This book is very, very interesting. It shows you the evolution of religion in America. Why America is very religious compared with the European counterpart. The European counterpart, the people who went to America and took their Christian ideologies to America, they held on to them, and it evolved in a different manner. So this book shows you why it happened and the different kind of Christian doctrines and beliefs that the Europeans who went to America took to America, and why they held it, and how they evolved into what we see today. And it's good, it's important for Africans to read it, because I believe that even though Europeans brought Christianity to the majority of sub-Saharan Africa, that now we have allowed the American standard of Christianity to be the one prominent in many African countries. So this book will tell you a lot of things. For me, maybe these two books are two of my best books that I've read in the last 18 months. Both of them are written by a couple of guys, Daron Acemoglu, I can't pronounce his name properly, and James A. Robinson. The first is Why Nations Fail: The Origin of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. This for me is a must-read book for young Africans, African politicians, and anybody who aspire to leadership. We need to understand how these things happen. Now, a lot of things, they are proposing this, but it's based on factual evidence. Yeah, it's very, very good. And this is supposed to be like a continuation. This is called The Narrow Corridor: States, Societies, and the Fate of Liberty. Now, in this book, that is showing us how different countries, societies diverge, and what caused those divergence, and the implications of those divergence. So these books are for us Africans who are trying to develop. These books there are two books that may allow us to start thinking differently and start noticing what is happening in our society. There's nothing new in the world. Everything has been done. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to look at things that have happened, look at what has worked, bring them, dissect them, decide which one we want to keep, what has worked for different societies, look at their culture, and decide which one we want to take, adapt into our society. All right. So, guys, these are the books I've read and I'm reading. And hey, take a pick. You can decide to read some of this. You can decide to read something different. But read, you must. All right. Take care. Bye.